just so that you understand what is going on, we're running something like the question time format here. I'll be taking questions from the audience and asking the panellists to respond to them. We'll get 1 or 2 points coming straight from you. Stuart Patrick is Chief Executive of Glasgow Chamber of Commerce, and Neil Kennedy was a CEO for 10 years of venture capital investment arms of British Linen Bank and Clydesdale Bank. Johann Lamont is leader of the Scottish Labour Party. John Mcnicol is a non-executive director of, or was a non-executive director of Polaroid. That is in the past, isn't it? Still the case. And chairman at Ingenious Audio, David Watt, who's executive director of the Institute of Directors. So what I'm going to do now is ask for the first question. I think Stuart Fraser, is there a Stuart Fraser in the audience?
The question is, do you think that in the future we will be lending to, or you will be lending to small businesses in the banks? Will we open for business again?
Well, I guess we're conscious that the banks have got a real challenge on their hands. On the one hand, they're being told that they have to manage down, or they have to manage up the cash balances they hold. They have to get their capital ratios in place, and at the same time, they're being told that they have to lend. If you're asking me, am I surprised? Then I have to say no, I'm not particularly surprised.
Can I ask other people in the audience, is there anyone else here who's had a similar experience of finding banks are simply not open for business when it comes to small business?
You can't recapitalise a bank and be lending lots of money in a fairly risky situation, where property, I think, still is quite overvalued in the UK, I think particularly in Scotland. I'm not surprised that banks are in that situation. They tend to work on a sectoral basis. Property at the moment is just a no-go area, full stop. So it's bad timing, unfortunately, for this gentleman's business.
I think for Scottish businesses that are trading well and are profitable and are cash generative, there are other sources of finance, but they would probably involve giving up equity. Growth capital in Scotland and the UK is a growing sector. Those with a lot of cash would like to invest in growing businesses that have got good prospects and they can see growing quickly. But in order to secure that capital, you'll have to give up some equity in your business.
Mark Elwood, you've got something more specific.
I work for a company called Absolute Solar Wind Limited. It's a company based in Glasgow.
Looking to expand out throughout Scotland over the next 6 months. And my question is probably gleaned from the company name is, what is the panel's view on the handling of the feed-in tariff?
Energy is probably the subject that gets more hot air from politicians, really, excuse the pun, because it really frustrates the life out of me. They talk so much absolute arrant nonsense about the energy supply altogether, and it's a very major concern probably to every business, every business that I know, is the cost and the security of supply. I suppose we all reckon that it's going to get more expensive, but we're not trying to get that somewhere under control. We're not trying to develop our renewables policy in a sensible way. We've got the SNP, for example. I mean, the First Minister will not use the word nuclear. He's just allergic to it. Okay, and the fact that we have to have it, he just completely ignores. And it's not me saying you have to have it. It's people who actually know about energy. It's their daily business. The people like Sir Donald Miller, who used to run Scottish Power. People like that are not just making it up. They're saying we have to have it in the short term. Okay? Whether we change it in the longer term is a different debate. Okay? You know, we're covering our countryside and wind turbines, which don't personally offend me all that much, but they're 25% efficient. What kind of future is that?
Joanne?
Yeah, I'm very conscious of what David has said, so I shall resist saying anything very much. Whatever, otherwise it'll certainly be less informed probably than it should be. I think for politicians we should stop starting with a soundbite and working back. And if I may be partial, I think the First Minister in particular suggesting that it's possible to be our energy entirely covered with renewables by I think 2020 is perhaps stretching that message, but the soundbite I just thought a bit too far.
Did close down Paul Gregory. I do want to get at least one more question in.
It's a question to do with e-commerce, if I may.
Fire away. That is a good question.
Okay. My name is Pete Moforth. I'm Chief Exec of Indes, a Glasgow-based e-commerce company. My question to the panel is, given that e-commerce is the biggest thing in business, and by saying that I'm quoting ONS figures which suggest that the entire value of e-commerce to the UK economy is 400 billion, and it's growing at 20% this year. And it's the easiest platform for exporting. I'm quoting their IMRG figures. What initiatives are the panel involved in to get more Scottish companies aboard the e-commerce train?
I can't say directly I'm doing things, but I couldn't agree more on that. Certainly I'm shouting both at members and others to actually take on that on board as well. I can cite a number of very good examples. I think, for example, I mentioned to you earlier on about Ortac Jewellery and the Orkneys, who have literally changed their business model around and their company around by adopting e-commerce. And I think exporting, somebody talked about entrepreneurship, and exporting are our two keys to only be out of this bluntly. Certainly exporting things to a large part of the world which is not in recession. And e-commerce is a way to do that actually fantastically well, vitally important, and everybody should set out trying to do that from day one in their business.
It just remains to thank you all for coming along, and thank you very much to the panel for giving their time.
I've got something to show to you, girl, but you don't wanna see, you don't wanna see. I've got news that I'll tell to you, child, but you don't wanna hear, you don't wanna hear my news. I've got stories to